This is a full disclaimer that, to the best of my knowledge, Cassie Alexander is safe. It was just the most clever title I could come up with. I have been told a couple of things about titles. One, I was told by an ex-boyfriend that I am terrible at writing them. I was told by an editor that it doesn't matter what you title a story as an author, someone with marketing, PR, and editorial experience is going to change it anyway. And third, if you have suggestions, send them my way. But just to be clear, full disclaimer, Cassie Alexander, to the best of my knowledge, is safe. Welcome to a very special episode talking to versatile author, one of my faves, such a lovely person, so much insight on writing, creativity, how to become a self-published or traditionally published author, Cassie Alexander. So before we start, thank you so much again, Cassie, for being here. And I am so happy to share this experience. So welcome to the episode. Welcome to No One Is Safe, a podcast about books, life, and where the truth can be stranger than fiction. I'm your host, Elizabeth Scozzari. Well, hello, everyone. This is different for me because there's not only a camera, but there's a really amazing person on the other end of the phone. And for those of you who don't know, this is Cassie Alexander. I'm going to Vanna White her. She is here to talk about books and writing and a whole litany of things that are unexpected because for the first 5 minutes we've been catching up with each other, it sounds like we are going to have a lot of topics. So we're going to jump in with these festive blue for Hanukkah because we are recording in the holiday season. So happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa. We have festive blue sleeves. So why don't we pick it up from there?
Yeah, no, I felt like tendonitis because I've always written in bursts, but I had COVID last month, and that's when I wrote most of Guarded by the Spider, and which was great, right? Because all I could do was kind of fugue state out on cold meds and write, and I didn't have any other responsibilities because I was like, I don't have to answer emails. I have COVID, and I didn't go to work because I had COVID. But I broke myself, and so now I'm trying to repair myself. But you mentioned before we recorded things about the cryo stuff. Do you remember, like, in the pre-COVID time in the Bay Area, they had like these class passes you could take for like assorted gyms, and you'd pay like $20, and then you could drop in at weird gyms and therapy places. And so there's this therapy spa. I had accrued enough credits through that, just trying things out, because also in the Bay Area, there's a lot of like weird types of yoga and stuff you can do. But I accrued enough credits to go to a spa that had cryotherapy. And so basically you sign this waiver, and it's like, don't come with wet hair because it will freeze. And they put you in this chamber, and it's like super science fiction. Like, you're in there. They ask you what music you want to hear. So it's kind of like a fancy dentist, but you take off all your clothes, you put on the little towel they give you, you wear the shoes they give you, and then you go in there. And then they like drop the temperature by like a jillion degrees. And in hindsight, it was amazing. And I really wish I owned one of those now. The older I get, the more appealing being frozen sounds to me. So, so that's why I'm still not done writing today. And so that's why I've got my little things on.
So, and that helps with your
With the
tendinitis, you
tendinitis.
said?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I've been crocheting like a mad woman, and to the point where like I would like everyone to notice these are now my arm muscles and I don't do anything but crochet. So I guess that counts as workout, but all day I was crocheting. And by the end of the day, I like went to jokingly give my friend the finger, and I was like, oh, that's a new pain I've never had before. So that's definitely something interesting. But what I do want to ask you, you said that you were working on something very specific, and I know that you have a couple of new projects. One I am like super geeked out about, but the other you had mentioned, I think you mentioned it briefly, and I'm going to get it wrong, so I do apologize. It's the one with the spider.
Uh-huh.
And so what I am just excited to hear about both of them, because you said they were very different projects.
Yeah. So I'll start with Take Her because it's the more accessible book. So I wrote like Bend Her, Break Her, and Make Her, which are a Dark Beauty and the Beast fantasy romance series, as I know you know.
They have their own like special stack on my bookshelf. I recommended them to my mom because I like their Beauty and the Beast. And the first one was good. And it like look, they were all good. You can read my reviews if you need a testament to how I feel about them. But the first one, there wasn't like the level of spice where I had to think about it before I sent it to my mom. So I
Yeah.
sent it to her. And so she read it and she liked it. She was so excited. She says hello.
That's awesome. Hello. Yeah, it was like a dark, slow burn BDSM romance about a beast mage and a trapped princess. And it's really hot, if I do say so myself. And I got to the end of those books and my brain craves novelty, which is like kind of good for readers, but bad as an author, right? Because you make more money as an author if you can just like pick a fucking lane and stay in it. But my brain is all like, you have said all you need to say about fantasy romance. And I'm like, no, because like, how much more profitable would it be if I could come up with more? But I know my brain by now and I can't. But on the 4th of July, I had this vision where I was like cruising the internet and I saw something that was like Belle from Beauty and the Beast, only modern day and in New York. And since Bend Her, Break Her, and Make Her had, borrowed so much from like Beauty and the Beast themes, I was like, and also too, I follow so many artists and on Patreon, and they all do alternate universe versions of their stuff, where you'll have like your cute fantasy couple, but then you'll have them like modern day in a coffee shop, and this is how they meet, or like they're on a spaceship now. And so I thought, well, what if I take my same characters that I love and their voices that I love, pluck them out of this fantasy romance, and put them into a modern day, entirely contemporary, no magic, BDSM, age gap, billionaire mafia romance with all the delicious plot butter in the world. And so I knew it was onto something when I emailed the first two people I emailed in my life about mostly everything was my narrator, because I was like, are you on board for this? It's going to be weird again. Sorry. And then my cover designer, I was like, can we do this? And they both emailed me back like literally on the 4th of July. And then I was like, okay, this is off to the races. So that's when I started working on that book. And it's so fun. It was nice because it was like having training wheels in a way, because, I already knew these characters. So that helped. But the situations they're in and the way they interact with each other and everything, it's just wildly different. I think people who like the original series will definitely see maybe the flavor of it and get some Easter eggs in the new series. But people who just come into like the new contemporary thing will, like, I think, love it from the jump. It's super sexy, if I do say so myself.
You absolutely can say so yourself. I back you on that one.
Sex, which I'm excited about.
You did say two things though that I have a question about. One, you said series. So does this mean that this is not just going to be a standalone and we're going to get a whole new world? I mean, now we're just crossing our Disney references, but we're going to get like a whole extended version of Take Her.
Yeah. So it's going to be, the 3 books are going to be Take Her, Love Her, and Hate Her. And so there's gonna, and that's the other thing too. I was like, once I came up with titles, I'm like, oh no, I have to write all of these. So yeah, they're gonna be very high drama, high angst, because that's the stuff I like to do.
You had mentioned your narrator, and I feel like I probably could have done like a whole bunch of background digging, but I like to get to know people, right? So for me, I read Camping Trip by you, and it was audiobook. And so do all of your books automatically get put into audio format?
I super try to. Yeah. And oh my God, like I've been heaven and earth, because Guarded by the Spider was like a late entry into my calendar. And then I was like, oh fuck, I gotta see if I can get this in audio. And it's actually happening like over Christmas break, which I can't even imagine. I'm just super lucky. And also too, it's a short book, so it's easier for people to fit in, which is good. But yeah, I do try to do that. I didn't really realize how popular audio was until I had Bend, Break, and Make Her come out. I knew when I was releasing Bend Her, I wanted to give it like the full production, like as much boost as I could. And I had connections with an audiobook narrator because of my Dragon Shifter series that I wrote with a co-author. And so I was able to get on her schedule. And because she was booked so tightly, I actually, and because I'd written those books in advance, I was able to get on her schedule and do a simultaneous release of Bender. And also too, to give audiobooks out as arcs to my arc readers. And I didn't really realize how many people would be so jazzed about that. I just thought it was going to be like a nice little bonus, but like for some people it was like the whole point. So now I definitely try to make those listeners a priority, because that's, you know, how they like to interact with things. He's going to go back there and mess with my hair because he wants attention, because his life is so hard and lonely.
It's hard
Everybody,
to be a cat.
it is.
When you want attention, you need your attention in that moment. And when you are done being attended to, everyone can fuck off. Like that is,
Exactly.
I get it. I think I lived the life of a cat without meaning to. So I do, I get it. And I do want to hear more about your current projects and stuff. But I had listened to an interview that you had done a while ago. And something that you said earlier in this one reminded me of something you said in that previous one. And I feel bad because I don't remember exactly where it was, but it was around the time that your journey as a COVID nurse book had come out. And you had said in that interview, it's written how I wanted it to be written. Like I wrote it as I wanted to write it. So now like the tone is there, it's good, I'm done. But I just, when I heard you say it, and I heard you say it in this one, it spoke to my heart as like a person to a person. Like when you said that, it was really beautiful and it really spoke to me. So I love that you have awareness of how you are, but also what's important to you, because I feel like not everybody has that.
Yeah, because I've been doing this for like 20 years, and I think it's really easy when you start off to get like super obsessive about reading reviews and trying to make everybody happy. And there's like, you can only really, I mean, you have to make yourself happy first and keep your own writing brain happy, and whatever that looks like for you. Like I said, I couldn't write more fantasy romances right now, and maybe I'll come back to them if I find a different story to tell at some future date, but I couldn't sit here and squeeze one out. And I feel like, especially because right now we're also online all the time. When I started, it was kind of a blessing that the internet wasn't like a thing. It was a partial thing, but phantom culture wasn't like it was right now. So, and there wasn't like a Goodreads and stuff, and you couldn't self-publish because it stopped you from second guessing yourself quite so much. And I did go through this period too, which bolstered me, but it was also soul crushing at the time, when my debut novel, Night Shifted, before it sold to St. Martin's, it came out like in 2011, so a long time ago. But there was a whole year where it was on submission with like 5 different fulls to 5 different agents who were all like amazing agents. And one by one, they all turned it down. And they all turned it down for like reasons that I realized I couldn't fix. Because they were like, oh, I don't like how dark this is, or I don't like the tone and stuff. And I was like, okay, you know, if you tell me you don't like a character or something, or a setting, or maybe a plot element, I can fix. But the way that I write is the vibe is the vibe, you know, and I can't fix the vibe. And so then that's when I realized it was important to not try to fix the vibe, because then you really just only get up in your head and in your own way and stuff, and it's no good.
That's hard enough to overcome on its own, just to know that and to like follow that. And I also, congratulations, because you did it. You did get it published. I know that I don't remember how long ago, but I do know that in the past couple of years you've been trying to get your rights back. So hopefully that's been going well. I'm sure
Yeah,
that's really important.
yeah. No, I actually got everything back. The 5th book in that series is actually, I'm re-releasing it at the end of this month, and then I'm going to be an asshole because there's not a 6th book. And I wrote it so that it needed a 6th book. And so I have deep apologies for the people who are going to read it. And I don't know if I'm going to write a 6th book. I think, unfortunately, that series, well, it was the book of my heart at the time when I wrote it, like, you know, back in 2008. It doesn't really fit into my catalog anymore, because it's like urban fantasy and it's not very sexy. And what I find myself drawn to these days is like way higher heat stuff. So yeah, I'm going to be a bad author on purpose. I haven't figured out the author's note for the end of that book yet, which is basically like, thank you for reading all of these, and I'm an asshole. Yes. So yeah.
Listen, I think it's a very honest note, because at the time when you wrote it, those were your people. I'm sure. I mean, as someone who has plenty of people living in my own brain, like those were your people. They were your friends. They were around you. They were your whole life. And now from 2008, this is why I majored in English and not anything science and math because we're in 2003.
It's it's been over 10 years,
A
right? Yeah.
long time.
Yeah, no, it totally is. It totally is. And I just, yeah, sometimes I feel like sometimes when you write things, like what you do is like you're spinning this cocoon around yourself. And then when you finish the project, you bust out of the cocoon. And that's why edits are hard sometimes, because it's like you're going back into the cocoon and you're just like, this doesn't fit anymore. And like you can't make yourself work in like the way that you were working when you were at that project, because each project has its own thing.
I like that concept and that thought. I just repolished a story that I wrote. It's a short story. I think I wrote it 5 or so years ago. And I remember it, and the way I remember it is different than how I wrote it. And so I sat down the other day and I just like took the parts I remembered and cut out the parts I didn't and then focused on the parts that still made sense to me. I actually ended up making 2 separate stories out of it. I'm definitely a different person than I was 5 years ago. I think I might be a different person than I was last week. Like, it just, I guess, depends on the day and all of our experiences. But I did tell you absolutely that I wanted to hear about the other book, not just Take Her, although you were going to have to plug where people can buy it, listen to it, all of the different formats we can consume it in, because that's like going on the top of my self-given Christmas list or birthday. I guess my birthday is right by Christmas, so I can treat myself to both. I could do audio and physical. But please tell me about your other book.
Yeah. So I got invited to be part of like a shared monster erotica universe. And I come from like a science fiction and fantasy writing background. And this is my way to kind of scratch that like alien, like itch, is writing about like monsters basically. And so this is like the theme for this shared world series is that they all work for the same security agency. And so this book is guarded by the spider, and he's like a spider kind of in the D&D sense of things, where like he has a human torso and then like a spider back half, because obviously, you read Banter and stuff. I like spiders, and also I like weird weird shit, frankly. So,
Do it. I'm in.
I called dibs on spiders, and I called dibs on krakens for the next round in this. I was just like, I want all the creatures that are difficult to have sex with. Give them to me. So, so I'm stoked about that. It was basically like this billionaire's daughter gets kidnapped, and she's held captive at the bottom of this very dangerous caverns inside very dangerous mountains. And this spider thinks he's going on like basically like a corpse retrieval extraction type thing, but he actually finds out that she's alive and that they're fated mates. And so, but she can't understand him because he loses his translator, and so she thinks that he's a monster, but he's saving her from the bad guys, but she doubts his intentions. So it's got some,
All
like,
of the things.
yes, many of the things. And also too, I had such a blast writing it because she's like super valley girl, which amuses the hell out of me, whereas he's like very shy and reserved. So yeah.
I love that Valley Girls amuse you. It is amusing.
I lived in Santa Cruz for 15 years, so I can say like and dude and hella and all the things. So I'm conscious of when I do it, and not that Santa Cruz is the valley by any way, shape, or form, but still, yeah.
You said San Francisco, right in the Bay Area. All I heard is, for some reason, I think between the Valley Girl and the Bay Area, I just heard Bayside from yes, from Saved by the Bell, and so that's about the extent. But I did have to ask you, of all the monsters and aliens, the cryptids and the monsters, what's your favorite?
Oh gosh. I
know, no pressure.
It's just whatever I feel like writing at the time, whatever's going to get across the otherness and make it interesting to me. So that's one of the reasons why I like 9, which is the name of the spider, is because he has to interact with his world in a different way because of his size and because of how he's built, and other people are strange to him and he doesn't really get people. So that's fun. The Kraken I'm excited about because one of my nerd hobbies is reading about saturation diving, which is like incredibly deep sea diving, like when they lay oil pipelines and stuff. I have wanted to write like a science fiction novella about deep sea saturation diving for like a decade. So I'm going to geek out so hard when I do that version of this book, like Guarded by the Kraken in June or July. It's going to have all sorts of neepery in there about like how you actually dive at like those abyssal depths. I'm so jazzed. But yeah, this is such a cop out. I don't think I can actually pick. I guess I like scary looking things that end up having good intentions, but that's like such a huge blanket of like monsters that are out there and stuff, you know.
It's okay. If I come across one, I will know where to send it. I would be like, you're gonna have to go to the Bay Area. I don't really know how to get you there, but it's in this big state over here. That's fair. I have what I guess at this point is probably considered like a basic answer. I'm werewolves. Like you can send me your werewolves. I am fine with that. Although I still want to know where aliens fall on the big debate because they've become their own form of alien porn now. And
Mhm.
but I don't know. It's its own, I guess they're their own people.
You know, so if you think about it, like if you break it down from like a story point of view, like one of the beauty, this is a theory that I have that people can tell me that I'm wrong about. But so think about like Mr. Darcy and Jane Austen stuff, right? So they have all these things holding them apart because of like society and culture and like the caste system basically that they had in like Victorian England. And so that is like a fertile ground for stories to happen in, right? Because you have these expectations that everybody set on you, and you're like, can I break free from them? Should I break free from them? What will happen to me if I break free from them? You know, will he ever accept me when I'm poor? You know, that sort of thing. Like all the Gilded Age stuff. I'm watching Gilded Age now too, all of that jazz, right? And so, but we lack that in modern society by and large, you know, as long as, I mean, it does still exist and I'm sure in certain places, you know, because obviously we've got all like all the contemporary romance things where there's an arranged marriage between like one billionaire and another billionaire for some reason. Anyway, you know how it is. But you have to have these external constraints that make your relationship interesting and where the couple has something to fight against individually or together. And so what I feel like is that monsters and aliens are just another way to add those differencing layers that you can manipulate as an author and that you enjoy seeing manipulated as a reader, because the culture differences between one creature or one alien space race and the person are so different. And so you've got like not only do you have like maybe like this broad swath of cultural expectations, like, you know, Ice Planet barbarians, like you're the only ladies on the planet, hooray, you know, and you don't understand any of these guys and you have to figure all this shit out. So you have to like work on like understanding one another, but at the same time, you also have like the interesting physical attributes to deal with because like everybody's got like a special penis these days. So,
I've started seeing them come up and like you can buy them in stores and I'm like, there's so many varieties. There's so many varieties, dude. I don't know.
There are. So yeah, so basically like, you know, because in a romance you always need something to fight against, and whether it's like your evil stepmother or like society, it's just certain genres lend themselves to having easier things to fight against because you can just say, oh, he's an alien, you know, or oh, I've been abducted, or oh, he's got like 3 dicks and they only have so many holes, you know, that sort of thing.
Yes.
You have to figure everything out. I think one of the challenges in when you're reading a why choose romance, which is usually where you have like one female partner and the person and then like multiple males who may or may not interact with each other sexually. And then that's where the tension comes from, because you have all these individual relationships that you have to like navigate, and each of those people have their own different ways of interacting with you or not wanting to interact with you when you're imagining yourself as a female protagonist, of course. So yeah, you know, and is society going to accept you if you're in a society that doesn't allow you to have like polyamory, blah, 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 you know, that sort of thing. So
you had mentioned it in all of those amazing things that you just said. I think it was with Nine, the spider specifically, you had mentioned about his otherness. And I think you did the same, not the same thing, but there's that concept of, you know, Raheem.
I'm so sorry for telling you that his name is pronounced Raim.
Can you? No, don't be sorry. I had to Google it. I Googled it, and that French man on Google who, like, anytime I ask, how do I pronounce it? Thank you. No, thank you.
I don't know, but the pronunciation came from my head too, so I could have been wrong. But it's hard to give
No,
characters
it's
hot
Raim.
names.
I
Nobody
can
else has
say
had.
Raim.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can say Raim a lot better than Raheem. That takes a lot
yeah,
of work for my
yeah.
Raim.
um,
But there's that concept of name for being different, and Lisanne for being different. And even in the camping one that I read, I think it was Lizzie and Jake. I read it so long ago, so
oh
to
my
quote
God,
your
I wrote
name,
it so long ago. You could tell me what this is horrible when you're an author. Everybody's like, how don't you know everybody's eye
no,
color?
because
And you're just like,
no, I've read stories that I wrote, and I was like, I wrote that. Good for me, I guess. Like, I don't know, but it's is that otherness something that you consciously sit down and set out to capture? Or is it more to your point of while this conflict is unfolding in your characters, you see it kind of on the periphery?
I think I use it as plot opportunity.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm pretty good about not locking myself into stuff because she says hopefully not boning herself in the future, because when I wrote stuff for Trad Pub, you never knew how long your contract was going to go, and so you turn in one book and you say it's a standalone with serious potential, but you can't, at a certain level that you can't say stuff that's going to fuck you over later, because otherwise you can't say, like, as a toss-off line, all werewolves have blue eyes, and then like 4 books later, you've like fucked yourself. And so I tend to be more about like the motivations that the characters are having, and then I come back and then I layer in, I'm like, oh, okay, so if this is what I need to have happen, how can I work back from that with my society or cultural or personal angle. Like, I know they need to fall in love, but why doesn't he think that he's good enough? Okay, this is why he doesn't think he's good enough. Where did that come from? And rather than going up the chain the hard way, because if you sit there and you just like try to figure out like your whole world before you start a book, like the chances of you never writing a book go up exponentially at that point. Ask me how I know.
I don't think I've ever sat down and reverse engineered, like, this is where I want to be. So how does it make sense to have gotten there? Like, what would have had to happen to have these things lead to this moment? That's Look at you. You are dispensing writing advice for free at this point.
I love talking about writing stuff like all the time. So
It's a beautiful thing. I think it's something that I know you've been doing for a long time. I've been doing it a long time, and it's something that for me has always been like, if I don't, there's two things. If I don't do them regularly, I become like a very weird and unhappy person. And like, I think weird is great. I think I can be weird in my own way. But like, weird shit starts happening for me if I don't talk to people or like get out of the house. And one of those things is a walk. Like, I have to go for a walk every day, whether it's a quick one or a big one. Like, if I don't, I just become like a very like introverted shell of a human being who like starts talking. I already talk to everything, but like it starts answering me back, and like it's not great for my mental health. The other one is writing, and I think it's just because at one point too many people are living here and need to like slowly come out and then have their own space on paper or in like my computer or on that post-it. Like, I have a board to my left that has just like all story ideas like tacked to it. Like, they need to go somewhere else at a certain point. And I guess it's an out of the blue question, but out of the ones that you remember, because it's been a long time.
don't
Do
ask me
you
eye colors. No.
No eye colors, I promise, no eye colors. Do you have a favorite character or one that you've connected with that has stuck with you in whatever capacity, or even if it's just like a favorite for right now?
How about I give you a ranked list?
I love lists. So
Okay.
yes,
All right. Let's do ranked.
list me, baby. I am ready to be listed.
I was going to say Raim or Lisanne, but probably Jack from my Dark Ink Tattoo series is my favorite. I'm actually repping my Dark Ink Tattoo sweatshirt right now because my house is cold. And he's like a bisexual vampire who can feed off of sex or blood. And he has a gig at a tattoo shop in LA, in Las Vegas, an all-night tattoo shop, and that book series is like my combination of like True Blood and Sons of Anarchy, but like very queer, and everybody sleeps with each other. And it's underappreciated because the relationships, they're not so complicated, but I have two main characters, Jack and Angela, and unfortunately they're not destined to get together, and everybody's like, oh, they're going to get together, and then when they don't get together, people are mad, but they both clearly have meaningful relationships with like guys and girls and other people on the side and stuff, because it's very much like a TV show stuff. I wrote that when I was like kind of in my TV show vibe serialization thing, before I really understood like the rules of romance. So it's more of an erotica than a romance in that way, although everybody does get a happily ever after. But Jack is like my sarcastic alter ego, and I love him, and he'll always be like my boy. But then after him though would definitely very closely be Rame, because I just really like writing guys who are dicks. And Rame is, I'm like, wow, why do I find it so easy to become a sarcastic asshole? I don't understand. While wondering what that says about me. And then I also really like Lassane. So like these books are kind of books that I was excited to get to kind of rewrite their history and stuff in this contemporary way for Take Her. And yeah, they're going to be some of my favorite characters like for the rest of my life for sure.
Oh, I love that. I do. It's on my to be read list, but in my defense, my entire living room is like books on my to be read list. So it's always with good intention that I say I want to read it, but then something happens. Like your was it Make Her or Break Her? One of them line jumped. Like the second it came in the mail, any book that I thought I was reading got pushed literally over, and I was like, this one has to be read. So they all just kind of get jockeyed around. But I did see that because it was an interesting concept. So you have vampires and you have like a tattoo party. It is on the list. It's a very long list.
I've written a lot of stuff though too, so I don't ever expect anybody to like have read all of my stuff, because like it's getting a lot at this point, which I'm proud of, but I'm also like, damn, that's a lot of books.
You are a very prolific author, and one thing I want to talk to you about is your publishing process. I stumbled upon your books on Instagram one day, and I was like, oh, this looks interesting as shit. So I tracked it down. I read the first one, Benter. My best friend and I bought each other a copy, not realizing that the other, because we were like, oh my God, this book is perfect. And so I was like, oh, well, I live in Pennsylvania, you live in New Jersey. Like, do you just want to keep yours and I'll keep mine? And then like, we'll do an exchange later. So, and then I kind of like fell into like, what else does this Cassie Alexander person have to offer? And you are genuinely a prolific writer. And I don't think people necessary, because you don't stand on a rooftop and say like, hey, I've written all this stuff. Like you do promote, and you are on social, and you're very active in that regard. So everyone who's listening, like, she has a shit ton of stuff to offer. Go look at it. Like it's amazing stuff too.
Right now I'm really only pushing like Bend Her, Break Her, and Make Her on social media and stuff, and it's stupid because I have all these other books that I have written that I know people would be excited about if they knew they existed, but nobody does. So that's one of the things is I want to kind of double down and work on getting the word out and doing some Facebook ads and like kind of getting those out too. It's kind of funny. I'm going to brag on myself for a second, but I was having like this just horrible post book release crash after Make Her came out, because I was like, what good is my life? My last book is out. I'll never write anything good again. And it's just like all the drama, because like being an author is a lot about being crazy. And that was when the Heaving Bosoms podcast / Patreon decided to do a deep dive on Dragon Called, Dragon Destined, Dragon Fated, and Dragon Mated. They meant to only do the first book, but then they realized there were 4 books in that series, and they did like 5 or 6 hours of audio about all those books together across several like podcasty patron things. And I was like, what the fuck is this? I was just like, I hate you all in a good way, because I was like, I just want to be depressed. And this is 5 to 6 hours of people objectively telling me that I'm good. Fuck this. Like, I was so mad. I was like, You might be right, but I don't want to know, So yeah, so I know that those older books are good. I just need the opportunity to give them some love. So hopefully 2024 will be their year to come out more.
Okay.
And then I'll keep writing more stuff because I am. So
Good, and I like it. You can have, like, a nice cycle of, "I am depressed and not good enough. Stop telling me that I am amazing and even better than that." It'll keep you motivated to keep writing.
I feel it's bad. I don't read as much as I should because I still have a day job and I still write a ton. So I don't have as much free time. So I just have like kind of like many people that I ask for things when I don't know, but I know that if I start reading to figure it out, it'll be dangerous. Like in my book, Am I the Asshole? Which has like a woman meeting and falling in love with the demon that her fiance, who's kind of a dick, summons up for them to have a threesome before their wedding. I was just like, oh shit, if I have a demon in this, do I need to deal with like all the mythological ramifications? Like, is there a hell? Is there a heaven? Just like what is happening now? And so I messaged a friend and she was like, oh, no, 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 no. In most demon books, hell is like Antarctica. No one goes there. And I'm like, fabulous. That's all I need to know. I can write this with a clean conscience and I don't have to worry about, and I don't have to read like 10 books trying to figure out like what I can get away with and what reader expectations are. That's like,
I love that. It's Antarctica.
yeah,
That's beautiful.
yeah.
That's really beautiful. So you do a lot of research when you write things?
No,
No?
no.
You go, and then if you need to
I
you look it up as you go? Because I'm in that camp, so
I don't research shit. I'm such a bad example, Elizabeth. I once upon a time I read very widely and I've been doing this since 1998, so I think it's probably like 25 years now. I also cannot do math on the fly. So no, because again, crazy. So if I read something that's like better than me, then I get all up in my head. I'm like, I'm never gonna be like that. And then if I read something that's like worse than me in my head, whatever, for whatever I've defined that as of at the time, then I'm like, why is this book popular and not my stuff? So to keep myself on like an emotional even keel, usually I read when I do read, like I write like straight contemporary stuff, just so it's like so far out of my wheelhouse that I don't have any weird baggage around reading it. But then also too, like I just kind of, it's good and bad to not know what expectations are.
but I think it's also the second time you kind of touched upon the balance of writing and like deadlines, responsibilities, marketing, all of that. Because I think in today's world, it's like a little different than how it used to be, or vastly different, I guess. In You're not just an author anymore. You are an author, you're a publicist, you're a marketer. Like there's a lot of components. Your journey in publishing from, I think, because if I'm not mistaken, you've done traditional and self publishing, and I'm sure that at some point someone's going to blow my mind and tell me there's like a third option, maybe hybrid's a third option, like however many options there are. I feel like you've done it all and have experience with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I started writing like in 1998. I know because I went to my first writing convention that year, but it took a really long time for me to get good. And so it wasn't until I wrote Night Shifted in like 2007 and 2008. And then it took me like a year to get an agent because back then self-publishing wasn't a thing. But then when my agent I did snag an agent. I think she was like lucky number 42 or 46 or something on my agent list. So yeah, so when I found her, she only made me change, like she was just like, yeah, just take 5,000 words out of this and make it shorter. And I was like, all right. And then it sold at auction, which was amazing. So that was like a big ego boost and kind of taught me to stay true to myself. And so that wound up being a 5-book series through St. Martin's Press, which was fun and good. But then it wound up getting canceled, like so many trad pub series just do, because the economies of the publishing/writing market are just strange. So after that, I was depressed for a while. And then a friend of mine, we were at a baby shower together, and she was like, you know what, you should write a choose your own adventure erotica. And I was like, you know what, I should. So I did that because it was a way to just write something that was just like super ridiculous and horny, but it actually had some intellectual challenge because it literally was a choose your own adventure to piece it together and stuff. And after that, I kind of got my wheels back under me. So I self-published that and some standalones. And then I started working on my dark ink tattoo series. And I started doing that like serials. And then those became whole like novellas, then books. And my Amazon self-publishing career back then in like 2015 was like super cluttered. And then I was like, oh shit, here I am writing vampire porn while the world's going to hell in a handbasket. I have to write something real now, which was like the worst career decision I probably ever made. So I went on to write like 2 young adult novels, one of which my agent could not sell, the second of which my agent wasn't even interested in because it was too weird. And so then I like stopped writing and for a bit, and then my old co-author kind of like came by and she was like, I know you like to write. I like to market. Let's do something. And so that's when we went in on the Dragon series together, which was amazing, an amazing experience. And I'm so glad that happened because it really reignited my passion for writing fiction. So I re-released all my things for like 2022 while I wrote these 3 books. And then I got just kind of like set the stage to come out strong in 2023. And then that's what I've done. And now I just kind of want to keep going. And the reason that I'm wide is because I really would like to get to quit my day job at some point in time. And I just can't put all my eggs in Amazon's basket. Amazon is great and they still comprise the bulk of my sales by far. But like, I don't know if you saw on Instagram, like maybe a week ago, all the authors complaining that their KU pages had gotten docked. The powers that be at Amazon are like, oh, they sent out all these messages to all these authors who are in the Kindle Unlimited program telling them, oh, there's been suspicious activity on your account. We're going to take some of your page reads away and stuff. Yeah, but they did it to at least like hundreds of people because I saw like probably 50 different authors complaining about it. And that's why I can't trust Amazon all on its lonesome. So that's why I'm on all the vendors, and then I get my audiobooks. Most of my audiobooks are also PG-13 and also on YouTube because people can listen to them there and I make money there. I have a direct store. I just try to do all the different things that I can do to create enough stability that maybe in 2025 or 2026 I can stop working at the hospital.
Well, we're doing it. I believe in us, and by us, I only mean you. I do. I am a big believer in if you can feel that elevated emotion when you're thinking about what it looks like ahead for you, you can attract it into your being and your orbit and stuff. So I am so excited to hear like the official announcement when you put it on social that like I am no longer a nurse. Instead, I'm a full-time author. Suck my dick. Like, I'm very excited for you.
That
I
is
can't
exactly
wait.
the post I will make, Elizabeth.
With like the dramatic, I'm in. I will like it. I will reshare it because I think it's important to follow your happy. And I've been knocked for it in the past. Like people have outright been like, "That's stupid," and I'm like, "Well, that's cool for you. It works for me." And so I'm finding my own way through that. And self-publishing is one of those things that on the one hand, like I want to do it. There's still that little like 8-year-old Elizabeth who decided as a very small child, like I'm going to be traditionally published because I don't think I knew any better at 8. I just knew I wanted to go into a bookstore and be like, that's me. And
Yeah.
so I've balanced that. And I think self publishing is beautiful. I just also know it always sounds like something that, like, if I had the unlimited resources to outsource, that's one of those things that, like, they're not gonna fuck it up. I might. They won't. Like, let me pay the expert kind of like when you can. I don't know. I also just recently discovered like laundry service is a thing, and I feel like a fucking bougie ass bitch. Like I'm gonna say it. I don't care. I paid $28 to have like 3 weeks of laundry done, and I
Me
didn't.
too.
Yeah.
Me too. I am bougie with you. Oh
Yes.
my God.
But it saves so much time.
It's
Mine
life changing.
You
It's
don't have to get quarters. I went to these people and they were lovely and kind and they took my money and my clothes and I have never had anything folded so nicely in my life.
no, so I'm not going to show you this extra couch over here because we have other stuff on it, but it used to be the laundry holding zone. I'm lucky enough that we do have our own laundry like machines here. But yeah, I hurt my back in August and our laundry stuff is downstairs. And just the thought of like leaning over and pulling like wet laundry out of the washer and putting it into the dryer, I was like, this is going to impede my progress. And then we started, and then the fact that they all come back folded to you and you can
Yeah,
just put them away, it's like magic.
it's so nice.
I also feel super bougie, but it's so worth it. And And that's the thing, right? Is we all only have like so much time in our lives to do stuff. Cause I won't lie, like, luckily all my friends are like very long-term friends and they love me because I've been hiding under a rock probably for 18 months now, trying to make my dreams happen. And I know I can crawl back for my friendships and like rekindle them and stuff. And I am successful enough that I can outsource some things. Like it is an incredible amount of work to, yeah, don't want to make it look easy by any means because it's not. It's like it's just so much. It's like very hustle, very very hustle. And but you know the one thing about self-publishing and being wide though that I do like, I don't have access to bookstores obviously, but because I'm wide I can get into libraries. And I love that
Oh.
because yeah, Hoopla is a library service and I get into them through Draft to Digital, and it makes me happy because sometimes I see people talk about my books on Facebook and somebody be like, "Oh, I just got that from my library." And I'm like, "Score, that is awesome." Because even if I'm not like in bookstores like I used to be or like I dreamed of as a kid, the fact that somebody can check me out from their library, it just feels fantastic. Yeah.
Well, you seem to have been balancing your priorities exceptionally well because while friends are important, I love that you have the kind of friendships and the support system that you can focus on making your dreams come true because we are in this experience for a finite amount of time before we move on to whatever's next. For some people that is like a big sleep. For to your point, like do we now have to start talking about is there heaven, is there hell, like whatever comes next, like this is it. This is your time here. So for you to be
Yeah.
doing that is beautiful.
Well, and that was another thing that working as a nurse during COVID really crystallized for me. You know, you see all these things on the internet where people are like, you know, and on his deathbed, he was all like, "I wish I spent more time with my kids." But when you're under the actual feeling of the threat of death, it does crystallize a lot of things. And for me, it was like, I should write more, you know? So it's it helped me really know what I wanted to do with myself. I really like Becca Syme. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's a coach for authors who does a lot of work around Clifton Strengths. And I went to one of her talks recently at 20 Books, and she was talking about how like some of the most important things you can do for your author career is just to stay above the line. And by the line, she meant to like approach things with as much emotional stability as you can, because like if something bad happens to you, it's always so easy, especially depending on how you're wired. And for me, for sure, yeah, to death spiral, you know, to just be like, oh, this bad thing happened, so 20 more bad things are going to happen. Today's going to suck, tomorrow's going to suck, this release is going to suck, blah, blah, blah. And then just to kind of like be very conscious of when things like that happen and just kind of like snip them and be like, I don't need any of this.
Yeah.
Today is today and it is what it is, and here we go. So yeah.
One thing about this podcast that I've been doing is the general form. These are the books I've read. This is my review of them. This is what weird shit I've done in my life at this point or this month. And then this is a story I wrote influenced by real life. But a year ago on the 17th, I moved out of the home I had purchased with my ex-boyfriend. And so the past year for me has been taking that, like, where do I need to be and what do I need around me? Where do I need to start inside and what can I build around me to follow my happy and do the things that I want to do and feel empowered to do them and feel good about them and not just fall into like that, okay, well, someone told me I can't do this, or someone thinks this is going to suck. So naturally I should agree with them, or like that whole saying, okay, let me look at like what I need and where I need to be able to do these things. And like, if you had told me 2 years ago that I would be doing a podcast, I would be like, she finally did it. Like she sacked up and did it. And it's because at the time, the support system I had wasn't in line. We didn't have the same ideas of what was feasible and what was, oh, you're just crazy. Like, that's not real life. Get here, get grounded. I'm like, no, bro, I am grounded. I'm just grounded on a
It just
different,
needs you to step up.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm grounded on a different kind of level. And like, that's okay. And I think it's great to hear from other people who feel differently and who have different opinions, but it's also really neat to see someone like you who, whether or not your little there's a little voice in there saying like, no, like I'm not good enough. Like, fuck that bitch, because you are truly an inspiration for at least someone like me. I can't speak for anybody else, but you traditional publish, you self-publish, you are making yourself a priority and you're still taking care of yourself. Like, you know, you have things to do today that require your phalanges to be moving and like your brain to be running. So you're caffeinated and you put your cold sleep on. Like, you are taking the time to do things for you to make your dreams come true. And I think it really, like, one of the reasons I was super excited to have this conversation with you is because you are like inspirational in the sense that like you're doing your stuff and you're getting it done, and like that's amazing. And I feel like I've learned a lot from this conversation, and I think it's inspired me to like try to figure some more stuff out about how I can make my dreams just as attainable. And like that's, so here's your kudos.
No, no. Well, that's awesome actually, because that's like what I want to put out into the world, because that's the thing. When I got to go to that mastermind thing with Sky Warren in 2021, I was like, I just needed to see somebody else say that it could be done, and like maybe give me like 3 rungs of the ladder, and then I could like figure where the other ladder pieces went. I just needed to know what was possible. And I feel like when people, I don't want to say are embarrassed by their success, but sometimes people haven't given a lot of thought to how they got where they get. That's my other thing too, is I've been doing this for like a really long time. And so if somebody tries to give like advice on writing or advice on writing careers, and they don't say like either I got lucky or I've been doing this a very long time, they probably don't have like the introspection required to actually know how they got where they were. Because a lot of people get lucky and then they're like, oh, I can go on the talk show circuit and I can tell everybody exactly how to be me, just be me, and it's just like, no, that's not, that other people can't do that. I can't tell you how many TikTok classes I've gone to where the advice has been like, just be really pretty and extraordinarily popular on TikTok and it's just, or just be funny on TikTok. And it's like, bitch, like that is not a thing that I can do.
I think you're funny.
But I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm too sarcastic. I'm too sarcastic. I think, I don't know how well that would actually translate. We'll see. But I have been doing it for a really long time. And so I just think that it makes me sad sometimes that in the writing grind culture, people are afraid to acknowledge that they have had some success, and then because other people will tear them down for having had it. And I don't want to ever be about that, because I always am I jealous or envious of people who I view as doing better than me? Oh, yes. Fuck yes, I'm human. But at the same time, though, I want to know how they got where they got, because maybe I can do that too, And so I don't ever want to tear down another writer or their career. I always want to learn from the best, and I wish more people felt safe being forthcoming about their journeys, because it's hard out there to be doing this for a long time. It just is.
Well, and that's something, it's one thing when people say beautiful things, but again, that other interview, and I really thought I wrote down the name of it, and I like am looking at my notes. I clearly did not, but you specifically, and you mentioned it in our conversation too. You're like, I had 42 rejections. And I think that not a lot of people talk about that side of things. Like, if you are doing traditional, like, I think if we're going to be real,
I was in the 70s by the time her thing came through.
Yeah, no, I believe you, because I haven't counted, but I have a list of like you have to scroll down twice. And I know that. And like, you and I were talking about mindsets before. I tried this whole thing of like celebrating when I got a rejection letter. And then what I think I found happening was I kept getting more of them, as opposed to like no responses or whatever. And I was like, okay, the universe heard me that I'm going to celebrate these. But I think I was not, like, the universe can't like distinguish between the two. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take them, say thank you, and then move on, and not give them high or low energy, just like acknowledge and move forward. And but it's something that I think people don't talk about enough, especially now with like I don't have TikTok. It's an advanced course for me. I'm just getting used to Instagram. Like, I've been doing Instagram consistently for a year, so like I'm proud of myself enough for that. But it's so easy to see the success or to see, oh, look, I'm doing great, or oh, like and it's great to be able to celebrate people. But I think that there's that whole part of you have to keep plugging along and you have to keep trying and you have to continue
Yeah.
forward because it's work and it's beautiful work because it makes us happy as writers to be able to create and do those things. You know, does it feel great when someone's like, "Oh, I don't want anything of what you just sent me. Have a good day." And you're like, "Oh, okay, thanks.
Mhm.
I'll go fuck myself." But, like someone hand me one of those monster things, I think the time has come to like try one. Because like at that point, it can hurt, but it's amazing to see the other side of that. Like being rejected but then carrying forward or having a successful career or taking it into your own hands.
And yeah, and I think too is like, I mean, but I'm in a good spot because I have written so many books. So I don't view each of my books as like a precious object anymore. I don't want to say I view them as a means to an end. And obviously, when I'm in the thick of writing a book, it means a lot to me. But I don't. I have so many that I don't have, and I have so much experience writing them that I know I can always write another. So I don't have to pin all my hopes and dreams into like the one book, and that really helps too, because even though I would love for like, any of my books to become the one, but to like break through and make me an international bestseller, blah, 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 that would be fantastic, obviously. But I know that I've always had more books in me. So even if I were to release a book and it were to fall flat on its face, I would have strong feelings about that, but it wouldn't be the end of me. And I think it's really hard for people who are newer writers because, and if you think about it too, in the scope of things, having even finished a book, it's just like such a massive accomplishment. Like, I'm sure a bajillion people who have always told you, I want to be a writer. And in your heart of hearts that they're like never going to put pen to paper. And then like the number of people, like the concentric rings as they come down between like, want to write a book, having written a book, having possibly written a good book, having gotten a agent, it's just like everything just gets tinier and tinier. The Venn diagrams get smaller and smaller as you go. And so it's really hard when you start off to have like that whole fullness of time sense about your career. But now that I'm almost 50, I get to have it, which is like the one benefit of aging.
You're almost 50.
I am. Well, I'm going to be 48.
I just wanted to make sure I heard you correctly.
No. Yeah. I'm going to be 48 soon. So I've just been rounding up because I like to sound older. I'm just like, I have a lot of advice and it really counts now because I'm almost very old.
I love that. Most people try to go the other way, but yeah, I know. I'm qualified now. I have reached 50. I'm qualified.
Great.
So, what is one really awesome thing you have done recently?
6 months ago, my friend was like, "Yo, do you want to see Depeche Mode with me?" And I was like, "Of course." But my work schedule is so weird. It's like somebody sneezed on a calendar. And then she was all like a week, like a couple days before that, she was like, "Do you remember we're going to see Depeche Mode?" And I was like, "Oh, fuck." So I needed to like switch days around, and there were people at work when I was working on Thanksgiving that I could switch with to get off the day to go to the show. But like Muse is one of my favorite bands. And I've gone and seen Muse live, and I don't know if for anybody else who's seen Muse live as a metric, like they just are like such a fantastic show. But like Depeche Mode was like up there. Like it was just like, I don't want to say life changing. It's so dumb, right? But
no, it's not. It's absolutely not.
Because like everybody in the audience was like fully committed. You get that vibe. Like everybody was just rocking the fuck out, and they felt that vibe from us. And it was just like this circle of love and rock, and like being like everybody singing and dancing, and it was just like so good. And the seats were amazing that my friend got. It was like so nice too. It was super, super fun. Really glad we did it.
I'm so happy you got to go. And to your point about calendars and like as a nurse, you don't have holidays. Just my human being has zero concept of time. I actually have the theory that it's made up. And it's not a theory because it is made up. Like someone one day decided that like this is a construct of time, and it's bullshit because not all of our states are on the same one. So realistically, like it's all made up. And so I have no real awareness of time or whatever. So, I mean, I hope you had a lovely Thanksgiving while at work. Hopefully someone brought you some gravy and mashed potatoes, because that is my definition of
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
No, it's actually, I like institutionalized food. So I'm actually kind of, oh, I hope none of my family sees this, but I'm kind of jazzed when I work on holidays because I really like the whole, it's like cafeteria. I don't know. I like cafeteria food. Yeah.
And that's fine. It makes you happy.
Yeah.
Then you know what? Fuck it. It makes you happy. And I support that. I still consider coffee like a food. So you're talking to, if you're looking for judgments, you're at the wrong stop because they don't exist here. There's only one more thing I wanted to ask you, and you totally don't have to answer it because we're not doing therapy right now. But you said something and it just sprang into my brain. What is the essence of Cassie Alexander? Like, you have so many facets and they're all tied together by a common theme, which is you. But like, what would you say those essence, like that whole essence is?
Hey, gosh, this is the wildest question I have ever been asked. Gosh, my word for 2024 is going to be ease. And it's going to be because I can stand down, because I have had something to prove for so long. I feel like, to myself and maybe to other people who didn't necessarily believe in me, and it's dumb, right? Because they're living rent free in my head and they shouldn't be, blah, blah, blah. And so I feel like but I've been successful enough this past year, and I feel enough trust in myself to continue to be successful going forward, and that I don't need to protect other people so much anymore. I recently stepped down from being the admin of like a massive science fiction and fantasy writing forum. And I was like basically like their tank. And then, at work, I like volunteered like an idiot the first COVID patient we had, because I was just like, I'm tough, I can take it. And that wound up breaking me. I feel like 2024 is going to be ease, and I don't have anything to prove anymore, and I don't have anyone to protect. I just need to do what feels right for me. So I don't know if that's going to be like my essence or anything, but that's like me getting rid of like my old essence and hopefully creating a new one.
Yes, I love it. I am on board for ease for you for 2024. This is great. That's beautiful. Okay, well then plug yourself away, which sounds super awkward, but apparently this massive thing in books with like anal and how it's just like usually in and done. Like 1, 2, 3, boop, it's fine. It's in there. So every single time I read a book now that has anal, I like call my best friend and I'm like, bro, because I know that like that's in his purview of stuff, then whatever. Anyway, I got to the part in, I think is it break her or make her? I think it's break her.
It's definitely
right?
break her.
Yeah, I'm glad that I remembered that correctly and that you knew right away because I was outside on the deck reading it. I stopped the world. I like took a picture of the page, which I'm sure is like copyright infringement or whatever. I'll send you
Don't give
$1.
a shit. It's my copyright. You're fine.
But I like sent it to him in text and I was like, well, I found a book that takes the time to like make it a thing and not just whoop, there it went. I appreciated that you took the time with it as opposed to like, I mean, dude, for some people, their whole lives, it's been an exit only. And now we're just going to start putting things in there and nobody does the prep work. And I just commend you on your prep work.
I actually try to be responsible as much as you can be in like monstery, romancy stuff, while still being hot. But I do try to be responsible. I can't claim that some parts are. And I actually try to be super consent oriented. And that's why it's really funny when people like super strongly bounce off my stuff. And not every book is for everybody. So I'm not putting these people down. It's fine. You can just put it down and walk away. I don't care. Or you can, say whatever you want to say about my stuff. But sometimes people are like very, very upset about consent issues. And I'm like, you're not reading this closely enough. Like you are not. Yeah. Because all of
you include consent. You do.
Yeah. All of my characters are consent kings in their own way. Now, because they're all assholes. And so eventually you do consent. And it's not that like torture you into it. You're just like, I really want to get laid, you know?
Let me figure out where I feel and how I feel about this. But I have a peanut butter theory is what I call it. And because I hate peanut butter, I'm not allergic to it. I just like as a thing, it is yucky. I don't like how it tastes. So every several years I will try it just to make sure I still don't like it. And the only other thing on my peanut butter theory list is anal. And like there's it's just way more information than anyone ever needed to know. But I appreciated your one, like the whole Ethan process and how he had like a whole plan for that. And two, the fact that he actually like didn't belabor the point. He didn't make it a big deal. He just was like, all right, this is what we're going to do. I think it's a good idea. And she was like, well, this has been a no pressure situation. You know what? We're already started. Why not? Just like see how it goes. And it's so different because I really like, I feel like because you do write super hot, super steamy sex. And it was just one of those things that like I wasn't expecting. And as I was reading it, I was like, oh, I think I found my people. Like I still don't think I don't, that sounds like an alarming thing to have inside of you, but like also at least I like the method, I like clapped for I don't know. So I just wanted to let you know, like, cause I couldn't have made it a whole podcast without being incredibly awkward. My grandmother, if she doesn't read anymore, well, no, that's not true. She reads, but they have to be like the extra large print books. But I was recently in a Spencer's because when I first broke up with my last boyfriend, she had asked like, oh, well, now that you're single, do you have any sexy stories? And so when I started having sex, I was like, you know what? You're 94 years old. If that's what you want to know, like you haven't had sex since my grandfather was alive back in like the 60s. You know what, Graham? It's fine. I got you. So I've been updating her on having the best sex of my life. Like, yeah, like all of these things. And I don't know why, because like it's my grandmother, but she's like my best friend. And so for Christmas, I was going to get her like a baby vibrator, like just like a little one, because I feel like at this point she hasn't. So I was in Spencer's, and this is where I said earlier, I saw the whole shelf of monster ones. Cause like, again, I got what I got and it works for me and whatever, but like there's a whole shelf now of just the monster ones.
Panoply.
I was like, that is not what we start Graham with. Can you imagine 94? I'd have to get her like a whole tutorial. Then I wanted to see if anybody maybe this is your project for 2025.
I do have a friend who's a sex educator, and her name is Allison Moon. And she had a book come out like 5 years ago. It was pre-COVID when I went to her release party, but it's called Girl Sex 101. It's mostly about women having sex with women, but that's like masturbating basically, only on other people. So I think that might be helpful for her. So yeah.
All right. I will, you know what? I'll go find it.
Girl Sex 101 by Allison Moon. Yeah.
Awesome. Where can people find you? Where can they buy your amazing books? And what things do you have to remind everybody that are coming out?
If you want to find me, probably the best way is if you go to like CassieAlexander.com, you can sign up for my newsletter, which I send out at like once-ish a month intervals. I'm also on Instagram, where I continue to overshare periodically. That's like at author Cassie Alexander. And then I'm also on TikTok at the same thing, at author Cassie Alexander. I post there very erratically as well. My upcoming books are Take Her, which is a contemporary mafia billionaire age gap romance, and Super Sexy, based on Beauty and the Beast. Super, super sexy. I swear to God, so sexy. Oh my God. And it's available wherever books are sold. No, it's out on all the vendors, so it's going to be everywhere. And then the audiobook for it will just be on Audible for a little bit to make the extra money that they pay you when you're exclusive. And that is coming out June. And then Guarded by the Spider is coming out January 31st.
If I haven't made it very clear, I greatly appreciate all of your time today, all of the things you shared, all of your insight, and I'm a fan of your books.
No, this has been hugely delightful. I'm so glad you asked me to be on. I've had a really great time. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, if you ever have anything else to plug or you just want to have another conversation, I am always here. Otherwise, I'm definitely going to look into personally some of the things that you talked about and keep my head up and keep going. And I cannot wait to hear the announcement when you are full-time writer, no-time nurse. And I can't wait to see what else comes for you in the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Bye. Have a good day. Thank you so much for listening to No One is Safe. This podcast means so much to me. If you've enjoyed it, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing, and leaving a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. For more content or more information on me, please follow my Instagram page at Elizabeth Scozzari Author and check out my website, elizabethscozzari.com. Thank you so much again, and go out and have a wonderful day. See you next week.